All right, so today we're going deep on human-centered innovation.
Okay.
And HCI, I think a lot of people, when they hear that, they think of like the design of a
Right.
smartphone or something like that.
Like products, yeah.
Yeah, products, but
Yeah.
we're talking bigger. We're talking like systems level stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I guess to start off, could you just kind of give like a quick definition of what HCI is?
Yeah, so human-centered innovation is really about understanding people's needs and involving them in the design process.
Okay.
So rather than, imposing solutions from the top down, it's about really getting to the root of the problem,
Okay.
understanding the people that the problem affects,
Yeah.
and involving them in creating the solutions.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's less about experts dictating solutions and more about actually empowering the community.
Exactly. It's about empowering the community to be a part of the solution.
I like that. So what I find really fascinating about HCI is that it takes like design principles, like the ones that we use for, tangible products like, a smartphone or a car or something like that.
Yeah.
And it applies them to these big, complex systems.
Right.
So how does that actually work? Like, how do you take those principles and apply them to these systems?
Well, it all starts with what we call systems thinking.
Okay.
So with systems thinking, it's the idea that problems don't exist in isolation.
Mm-hmm.
They're part of this larger web of relationships and influences.
Okay.
So you kind of have to zoom out and look at the big picture to understand how everything is interconnected.
So instead of just treating the symptoms, it's like you're understanding the entire patient, so to speak.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's really where it becomes powerful.
Okay.
Because it helps us uncover those root causes, those underlying systemic issues that are driving these complex problems.
Okay, I'm starting to see the power of this.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
Sure.
Why should our listeners care about HCI? Like, what's in it for them?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And the answer is a lot.
Okay.
I mean, think about any problem that bugs you in your own life.
Yeah.
It could be anything.
Yeah.
Traffic in your city, access to affordable housing, you name it. And the thing is, HCI provides a framework for tackling those very issues.
Wow.
Not with temporary fixes, not with Band-Aids, but with solutions that are sustainable, that are equitable, that truly benefit everybody involved.
So it's like having a superpower.
It is.
For making a difference.
It is.
Okay, so say I'm ready to put on my HCI cape.
Okay.
And I want to go tackle a problem.
All right.
Where do I even begin?
Well, first you need the ingredients.
Okay.
So you need to gather all the ingredients for success.
Give me the recipe.
And one of the most important ingredients is stakeholder engagement.
Okay.
And what that means is bringing everyone to the table.
Okay. So everyone who has a stake in the problem.
Yes, everyone who has a stake in the problem.
Okay.
But particularly the people who are most affected by it.
Okay.
So we're talking about the people who are directly impacted. We're talking about experts, policymakers, community leaders, everybody.
So everyone has to be involved.
Everyone needs to be at the table
Okay.
to share their perspectives and to understand their needs.
So it sounds like collaboration is key here.
Collaboration is absolutely key.
Yeah.
And that collaborative spirit leads to another key ingredient, and that is community-led design.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So instead of imposing solutions from the outside, you're empowering communities to take the lead in shaping the solutions that directly impact their lives.
That's really empowering.
It is.
It shifts the power dynamic, and it also ensures that the solutions that are created are actually relevant.
Absolutely.
And responsive to that local need.
Exactly. That's the whole point. It's about empowering communities.
Okay.
But it doesn't stop there.
Oh, yeah.
You need iterative prototyping.
What's that?
So think of it as a constant cycle of testing and refining solutions based on feedback.
Okay.
So you're constantly testing, getting feedback, refining.
So you're not just coming in and saying, like, here's the solution, take it or leave it.
Yeah, no.
It's like you're saying, let's work together to get to the best possible solution.
It's a process of continuous improvement.
So being flexible and adapting as you learn more.
Absolutely. Embracing the fact that we don't have all the answers up front.
Okay.
And that we need to be constantly learning and adapting.
I like that.
Yeah, and all of this is fueled by a long-term vision.
Okay.
So with HCI, we're not looking for quick fixes. We're not looking for Band-Aid solutions. We're aiming for real systemic change.
Yeah.
That benefits everyone.
Okay.
For the long haul.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I'm really starting to see, like, the potential here. But can you give me an example of HCI, like in action?
Sure.
Like a real-world example.
So a great example is the work of IDEO.org.
Oh, yeah.
So IDEO.org is the nonprofit arm of the design firm IDEO.
Okay.
And they're known for tackling these big global challenges, from poverty and healthcare to education.
Okay.
And they use a human-centered approach.
I've definitely heard of IDEO. They're known for being very innovative.
They are, yeah. And what makes IDEO.org so fascinating is their deep commitment to working in partnership with local communities.
Okay.
So they don't parachute in with these prepackaged solutions. They spend time on the ground, really understanding the context and co-creating solutions that fit the needs.
So can you give like a concrete example?
Yeah, so one area where they've had a really significant impact is financial inclusion in low-income communities.
Like, what does that mean exactly?
So they've developed programs that empower people to access financial services, build credit,
and ultimately create a pathway out of poverty.
Oh, wow. So I see like all the HCI principles like kind of coming together there, right?
Exactly.
You've got the systems thinking to understand the problem, engaging with stakeholders, and empowering the communities to take control.
Yeah. That's great. And doing all of that with an eye on the long game, creating lasting change instead of temporary fixes.
That's really inspiring to see all these principles put into action. It really highlights like the power that this has to make a difference.
It does. And, you know, there's tons of examples out there. But let's be real. Putting this into practice isn't always a walk in the park.
Right. So what are some of the challenges of actually applying HCI?
Well, first off, just the sheer complexity of these interconnected problems can be a major hurdle.
Right, because you're not dealing with just like an isolated issue, right? Like all these things are intertwined. It's like trying to untangle a giant knot. You know, figuring out all these relationships and feedback loops and how one intervention might ripple through the system.
So even like mapping out the problem itself is a challenge.
It is a challenge in itself. And then there's the challenge of scale. So you might have a fantastic solution that works beautifully on a small scale, but expanding it to reach a larger population often requires a ton of resources, infrastructure, buy-in from different stakeholders.
Yeah, that can be a roadblock.
It absolutely is.
Especially when you're working with like limited resources and trying to make it work. And then on top of that, you have to get everyone on the same page, right?
Right. So stakeholder alignment can be a real challenge. Bringing diverse groups together is one thing, but getting them to agree on a plan of action can be a whole other story.
So managing all those different perspectives.
It's a constant balancing act. And then, of course, there's funding. Securing the resources for long-term projects, especially in the social impact space, can be an uphill battle.
Yeah, it's like you're trying to convince funders to invest in these solutions that might not show like immediate, tangible results.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a tough sell in a world that often prioritizes those quick wins.
But HCI is about the long game.
It is about the long game. It's about systemic change. It's about sustainability.
Okay, so we've got the complexity, we've got the scale, we've got the stakeholder alignment, we've got the funding. Are there any other challenges that we should be aware of?
Well, there's also the challenge of measuring impact.
Okay.
So you implement a solution, but how do you know it's actually making a difference?
Yeah, in like a complex system, how do you measure that?
Exactly. It's not always easy to isolate the effects of specific actions and determine whether they're directly responsible for the outcomes.
Especially with all those like ripple effects.
Exactly. It's like trying to trace the ripples in a pond. You know, where do they start and where do they end?
Yeah, good analogy.
And then finally, we can't overlook the power dynamics.
Okay.
So who holds the power in this process? Whose voices are being heard and whose voices are being silenced? How do we make sure that the benefits of HCI are shared equitably?
Those are great questions.
These are critical questions that we have to address if we truly want to create solutions that are equitable and empowering.
So it sounds like there's a really strong, like, ethical component
there is
that goes along with all of this.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about like, you know, the design and the implementation, but like the ethics behind all of it as well.
It's about wielding our influence responsibly and making sure we're not inadvertently creating or perpetuating inequalities.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So we've talked about kind of the practical challenges, but now let's dive a little deeper into the intellectual side of things.
Right.
So what are some of the academic frameworks that support HCI?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, systems thinking is at the very core of this approach. And it provides a lens through which we can analyze problems and guide our approach to finding solutions.
So can you unpack that a bit?
Sure.
Like, how do those theories translate into action on the ground?
Well, systems thinking really helps us see those interconnections. It helps us recognize that a problem is very rarely isolated.
Okay.
It encourages us to map out the relationships, pinpoint feedback loops, understand how interventions might affect the entire system.
So it's like taking a wide-angle lens and looking beyond just those immediate symptoms.
Exactly. It's about understanding those underlying causes and how they contribute to the problem.
Yeah.
And then you have complexity theory,
Okay.
which helps us grapple with the unpredictable nature of these systems.
Yeah.
So it recognizes that these systems are constantly evolving, they're adapting, and our actions within them can have unexpected consequences.
So you have to kind of be comfortable with not knowing everything.
Absolutely. It requires a certain level of comfort with ambiguity and a willingness to adapt as you learn.
Yeah, it makes sense.
And one key concept that links both systems thinking and complexity theory is Donella Meadows' leverage points.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
Have you?
Yeah, it's about finding the most effective places to intervene
Exactly.
in a system to create change, right?
Exactly. So Meadows identified these 12 levels of leverage points, ranging from minor tweaks to paradigm shifts.
Wow.
And understanding these leverage points can be incredibly helpful in guiding our interventions.
So it's like a roadmap.
It is like a road.
To guide you towards the most strategic intervention point.
Exactly.
That's great.
And it reminds us that sometimes creating change isn't about brute force or grand gestures. It's about finding those subtle shifts in the right places that can have a huge impact on the system as a whole.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So are there any other theoretical frameworks
that
play a role in the HCI world?
There are. So you have things like social innovation theories
Okay.
that offer valuable insights into developing and implementing solutions for social problems.
Okay.
So they explore things like social entrepreneurship, collective impact, and systems change, providing frameworks for creating sustainable social change.
So it's about how you actually mobilize the resources.
Exactly.
And you build the partnerships to create this kind of
It's about creating a movement for change.
Yeah, a movement for change.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
And then you also have participatory action research.
Okay, I haven't heard of that one.
So this is a research approach that involves community members as active participants, not just subjects.
Okay.
So it recognizes that those who are closest to the problem often have the most valuable knowledge and insights.
Yeah.
So it empowers them to shape the research agenda and contribute to finding solutions.
Yeah, I really like that because then the research is actually relevant to the needs of the community.
That's the whole point.
Yeah, and it really aligns with those
it does.
HCI principles we've been talking about.
That aligns perfectly.
Of stakeholder engagement and community-led design.
Exactly.
So we've covered the theoretical foundations, but now I want to zoom out to the bigger picture.
Okay.
What's the impact of HCI on the world?
Well, for communities, it offers them a chance to gain a greater sense of agency and control over their own development.
I like that.
So by actively participating in the design process, they can shape solutions that truly address their needs and aspirations.
So instead of being passive recipients of aid, they're active drivers of the change.
Exactly. They become the drivers of change.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and for individuals, HCI can lead to better well-being and increased access to essential services.
Okay.
So by tailoring solutions to individual needs and preferences, we can create a world where everyone has a chance to flourish.
So it's about creating a more equitable and inclusive society.
It is about creating a more equitable and inclusive society.
I like that.
And where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential.
That's great.
And for designers and innovators, it's a chance to use their skills and creativity for good to make a tangible difference in people's lives.
That must be very rewarding.
It is incredibly rewarding for those who are passionate about making a difference. And organizations also benefit.
Okay.
So HCI helps them adopt more effective and sustainable approaches to address social and environmental problems.
Okay.
So by incorporating these principles into their operations, they can create a culture of innovation.
I like that.
That prioritizes human needs.
Yeah.
And that leads to better outcomes for everyone.
So transforming organizational culture.
Exactly, to be more human-centered.
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, for society as a whole, HCI holds the promise of a more equitable, sustainable, and resilient future.
Okay.
So by embracing this approach, we can tackle these complex challenges in a way that truly benefits everyone.
So it's not just about the individual, it's about like society as a whole.
It's about society as a whole, leaving no one behind.
Yeah, that's really inspiring.
It is.
It gives me a lot of hope about the future.
I think it should.
Yeah, and like humanity's potential to kind of build a better world.
I agree. HCI isn't just about designing things.
Yeah.
It's about designing a better future.
I like
that for all of us.
So before we move on, I'm kind of curious about the history.
Okay.
Like, where did this approach come from?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
You know, the roots of this really go back to these earlier approaches to community development and social change. So for decades, activists, organizers, development practitioners have been engaging with communities, fighting for social justice on the ground.
Okay.
So HCI really builds upon this rich history of social activism and grassroots movements.
Okay.
And it incorporates lessons learned from community organizing, participatory development, social innovation movements, blending those insights with the tools and methodologies of design thinking.
So it's like a fusion.
It's a fusion
of all these different things.
Exactly. It's a fusion of different fields and approaches. And importantly, it's still evolving.
Okay.
So HCI is not a fixed concept. It's a dynamic and ever-evolving approach.
Right, because the world is constantly changing.
Exactly.
So the approaches have to change.
As the world becomes increasingly complex and interconnected, our ways of solving problems need to adapt as well.
Absolutely.
And the relevance of HCI today is undeniable.
Yeah.
I mean, think about all the global challenges that we're facing. Climate change, inequality, pandemics, political polarization. We need approaches that are human-centered, that are collaborative, that are solutions-oriented.
Yeah, it's not just nice to have anymore.
It's a necessity.
It's
navigating the complexities of the 21st century.
That's a great point.
And, you know, looking ahead, I think we're going to see even more progress in this field. You know, we might see the development of new tools and methods specifically designed for applying HCI to systemic issues.
Okay.
Increased collaboration between designers, policymakers, community organizations.
I'm excited to see what the future holds.
I think it's a very exciting time.
Yeah, it feels like we're on the cusp of like a major shift in the way we approach problem solving.
I think we are.
Yeah, so this has been an incredibly enlightening look at HCI.
Good.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah.
Before we move on, is there anything else that you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I'd like to leave our listeners with a question to ponder.
Okay.
What's a problem that you care about?
Okay.
Think about the challenges that you see in your community, your workplace, the world at large.
Okay.
And then ask yourself, how could you apply the principles of HCI to make a difference?
I love that question. It really encourages people to think about how to put this into action.
Exactly.
So it's not just about learning about it.
Right.
It's about actually doing something.
It's about taking action. And I want to emphasize, you don't need to be a professional designer or innovator to make a difference.
Right.
The principles of HCI are for everyone.
That's really empowering.
It is empowering.
Yeah.
It means we all have the potential to be agents of change.
I love that.
So I encourage our listeners to embrace that power. Start by taking a closer look at the systems in your own life.
Okay.
Identify the problems that resonate with you, and then start asking questions, gathering insights, exploring solutions. You might be surprised by the impact you can have.
That's a fantastic thought to kind of end on this part.
Yeah.
It really does leave us with this feeling of possibility.
Good.
Yeah. So we've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive,
We
into human-centered innovation.
Yeah.
We explored the core principles, we dove into real-world examples,
Right.
and we looked at the challenges and opportunities ahead.
Yep.
Join us for part 2 as we continue to unravel the nuances of this incredible approach and explore its potential to transform our world.
Sounds good. Welcome back to our deep dive on human-centered innovation.
I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, I hope you've all had some time to think about the question we left you with at the end of part 1.
I know I have. It's definitely got me thinking about some stuff.
Good.
Like, some problems in my own life and, my community that I think this could be applied to.
It's all about applying these principles to make a difference. Even small changes can have a ripple effect. Remember that HCI isn't just for like the experts or big organizations. It's a mindset. It's a way of approaching problems that anyone can embrace.
So it's like a way of seeing the world.
It is a way of seeing the world through a human-centered lens.
Yeah, I like that.
And that has the power to transform not only the things we design, but the very systems we live within.
Okay, yeah.
So as we continue this deep dive, I want to highlight something that's really crucial to this process.
Okay.
And that is humility.
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 Okay.
It's fundamental.
That's an interesting concept to bring into design.
It is, but it's essential.
Okay.
You see, as designers, as innovators, as problem solvers, we need to acknowledge that we don't have all the answers.
Okay.
We have to approach these challenges with a willingness to learn from others, especially those who are most affected by the problem.
So letting go of your assumptions and being open to
Exactly.
other people's perspective.
Open to different perspectives.
Okay.
Because oftentimes the people that we're designing for hold incredible knowledge and insights that we might miss if we come in with this know-it-all attitude. So it's like everyone is an expert in their own experience.
They're the experts in their own experience. And by embracing humility, it allows for genuine collaboration, co-creation, and ultimately more effective and equitable solutions.
This actually reminds me of what we talked about before with the community-led design.
It's all connected. It's all about shifting the power dynamic and recognizing that expertise can come from many different sources, not just those in traditional positions of authority.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So I remember reading something about the importance of lived experience in design.
Yes, lived experience.
Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Absolutely. So lived experience is that firsthand knowledge that people gain through their experiences, particularly those who have faced systemic challenges or barriers. So it's about valuing those perspectives and incorporating them into the design process.
Okay, so you're actually taking those experiences and using them.
Using them to inform the design. Because the people with lived experience are often the ones who are best equipped to identify the root causes of problems and help co-create solutions that are actually relevant and impactful.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you think back to some of the challenges that we were talking about, like that complexity, those power imbalances.
Absolutely.
It seems like lived experience would be really key.
It's essential for tackling those effectively.
So overcoming those.
It is, by embracing those diverse perspectives and acknowledging our own limitations. We're much better able to navigate that complexity and address those power imbalances.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So it's not just about like, being nice or politically correct.
No, it's not about that.
It's about creating a solution that's actually going to work.
It's about effectiveness.
Yeah.
It's about equity. It's about tapping into a broader pool of knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, okay, I get that.
Yeah, and it also fosters that sense of ownership and agency within communities, which is so important for driving sustainable change.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, so let's switch gears a bit and talk about technology.
All right.
So what's the role of technology in HCI?
So it's easy to think of technology as the main driver of innovation, but in HCI, it actually plays a different role.
Okay.
It's not about creating the latest gadget just for the sake of it.
Yeah.
In HCI, technology is a tool.
Okay.
It's a means to an end.
Okay.
It's not the solution itself, but rather a facilitator of human-centered solutions.
So it's about ensuring that technology actually serves human needs.
Exactly.
And not the other way around.
That's it.
Right.
And that means being mindful of the potential downsides of technology as well.
Okay, yeah, so like the digital divide.
The digital divide, algorithmic bias, the ethical implications of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we need to be aware of.
We need to be aware of those things,
Yeah.
and that's where HCI principles come in.
Okay.
By centering the design process around those human needs, we can help ensure that technology is used ethically, equitably, and in a truly human-centered way.
Okay, so technology is like a tool.
It's a tool.
Not the solution.
Not the end in itself.
Can you give me some examples of like technology being used well?
Sure. So one area that's really exciting is the use of mobile technology to empower communities.
Okay.
Especially in parts of the world where mobile phones are much more accessible than traditional computers or even internet access.
Yeah, that's a great point.
So mobile technology has opened up all these incredible possibilities to connect people, share information, deliver essential services directly to those who need them most.
So taking the technology that people already have and using it,
leveraging that existing technology
to create positive change.
To create change, exactly.
Okay.
So, for example, there are mobile apps that connect farmers directly to markets.
Oh, wow.
So they can get fair prices for their products.
Got it.
There are apps that deliver vital health information, connect patients with doctors, help track the spread of diseases.
Wow, those are really powerful examples.
They are.
Yeah, it shows how technology can actually empower people.
Exactly.
Instead of, kind of leaving them behind.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
And we're also seeing technology used to really boost community engagement.
Okay.
And make participatory design more accessible.
How so?
Well, there are online platforms now that allow communities to share ideas, give feedback on proposed solutions, even participate in the design process remotely.
That's awesome.
Which can be really valuable in those remote areas or situations where it's difficult for people to gather in person.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
So it really opens up that design process and helps to ensure that everyone has a voice.
Okay.
And this is just one example of how technology can strengthen those HCI principles as technology continues to evolve.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see how we can use it to create more human-centered solutions.
Yeah, it seems like we're just scratching the surface.
I think we are.
Yeah.
But let's bring it back to the present for a second.
Okay.
What are some of the current trends and challenges in the field of HCI?
Yeah, good question.
So one trend that I'm particularly excited about is the growing recognition of systems thinking.
Oh, yeah, we've been talking about that a lot.
Yeah, it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, why do you think it's gaining so much traction right now?
Well, I think there's a growing realization that our old ways of solving problems, which often focus on these isolated issues, just aren't effective anymore.
Right, it's like a Band-Aid solution.
Exactly. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a much deeper wound. We're starting to see that everything's connected. And that our actions can have these ripple effects throughout the entire system.
Yeah, so it's a more holistic view.
It's a shift from that reductionist view to a more holistic one.
Yeah, it's like you're seeing the whole forest now.
Exactly.
Instead of just the individual trees.
And this shift is being driven by a number of things.
Okay.
So you've got the increasing complexity of our world, the interconnectedness of global challenges, and the rise of data and technology that allows us to see these patterns and relationships in totally new ways.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and this shift towards systems thinking is having a major impact on HCI.
Okay, how so?
We're seeing a move away from designing individual products or services and a focus on designing for systems change.
So it's like a bigger level.
It's a higher level.
Yeah.
It's not just about making things better.
Yeah.
It's about making the entire system more equitable, more sustainable, more resilient. And that calls for a whole new set of skills and approaches.
Yeah, it sounds more challenging.
It is more challenging. We have to think in terms of interconnectedness, feedback loops, unintended consequences.
Okay.
We need to be comfortable with ambiguity, with complexity.
Okay.
And we have to be able to collaborate effectively with these diverse stakeholders.
Yeah, that's a lot.
It is a tall order.
Yeah.
But it's also incredibly important because as the world becomes increasingly complex and interconnected, these human-centered systems-oriented solutions are more crucial than ever.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
So yeah, systems thinking is a major trend.
Okay.
What about challenges?
Yeah, let's talk about some of the challenges.
So one challenge that keeps coming up is the difficulty of measuring impact in complex systems.
Okay.
And we touched on this a little bit before.
Yeah, I remember you were talking about like the ripple effect.
So remember, we're not designing for these isolated outcomes anymore.
Yeah.
We're aiming for systemic change.
Right.
So it's not as simple as just counting how many people used a product or how much money was saved.
It's more than just numbers.
It's more than just numbers.
Okay.
When you're dealing with systems change, the impact can be spread out over time. It can be long-term. It can be difficult to quantify. And that can make it really tough to secure funding to prove the value of the work and to adapt based on results.
Yeah, because if you can't measure it, you don't know if it's working.
You don't know if it's working.
Yeah.
So we need to rethink our traditional approaches to evaluation.
Okay.
We need new methods, new ways of measuring that can actually capture that complexity of systems change and account for that interconnectedness of outcomes.
So like measuring the ripple effects.
Exactly. Like measuring those ripple effects.
Unintended consequences.
The unintended consequences and the long-term impact.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's a lot of exciting work happening in this area.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Researchers and practitioners are creating new tools and frameworks for measuring systems change. And I'm optimistic that we're going to see a lot of progress in this area.
That's good.
In the coming years.
Okay. So measuring impact, that's one big challenge.
Yeah.
What are some of the other ones?
Well, another one we've touched upon is power dynamics.
Yeah.
So who holds the power in this process? Whose voices are being heard and whose voices are being silenced? How do we make sure that the benefits of HCI are shared equitably?
Right. Because it's easy to say we're putting people at the center.
Exactly.
But if you're not careful, those power imbalances
can creep in.
Can sneak in there.
Yeah. So we need to be constantly aware of this.
Okay.
We have to intentionally design processes that are inclusive, that empower those marginalized communities and guarantee that their voices are heard and respected.
So it's not enough to just invite people to the table.
It's not enough. You have to make sure that they have a real seat at the table and that their contributions are valued.
That's a great point.
Yeah, and that means acknowledging our own biases and assumptions as designers and being willing to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, that takes a lot of humility and self-awareness.
It does, but it's essential if we want to create solutions that are truly human-centered and benefit everyone.
Okay, so measuring impact and power dynamics.
Yep.
What else?
So another increasingly important challenge is designing for sustainability.
Okay.
Which makes sense given the urgency of climate change and all the other environmental issues that we're facing.
Yeah.
So we can't just focus on meeting human needs in isolation. We have to consider the impact of our solutions on the planet.
It's all connected.
It's all connected.
So it's about making sure that those solutions are not just like good for people, but they're good for the environment as well.
So they're effective, they're equitable,
Mm-hmm.
and they're environmentally sustainable.
Yeah. Okay.
And that means thinking about the entire life cycle of a product or service
Okay.
from the materials used, the energy consumed, to the waste generated.
Yeah.
It's taking that holistic approach that considers the interconnectedness of both human and natural systems.
Yeah, I like that.
And this is an area where HCI can make a huge difference by applying those human-centered design principles to sustainability challenges. We can create solutions that benefit both people and the planet.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much potential there.
There is.
To like use our ingenuity to solve these problems. So that's really encouraging.
It is. HCI is a powerful tool for building a more just and sustainable future.
Okay.
And I think its role in tackling these challenges will only continue to grow.
Okay, so we've got the systems thinking.
Yep.
We've got the challenges of like measuring the impact, power dynamics, and designing for sustainability.
It's a lot to consider.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But that's the nature of HCI.
Yeah, it's complex.
It's complex.
Yeah, but it's exciting too.
It is exciting.
Because it's like we're finally starting to address
I think so too.
those big problems in a way that's actually going to make a difference.
In a way that's actually going to make a difference and hopefully a lasting difference.
Yeah.
So I hope our listeners are gaining a deeper appreciation for both the complexities and the possibilities of HCI.
I think they are.
Yeah.
I know I am.
Good, good.
Yeah.
So if I had to pick one key takeaway that I want our listeners to remember from this whole deep dive, it would be this.
Okay.
HCI is about putting people at the center
I like that.
of everything we do.
Okay.
It's a simple message, but it's incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that design isn't just about aesthetics or function.
Right.
It's about human needs. It's about aspirations.
Okay.
It's about well-being.
It's about people.
It's about people.
Yeah.
And when we put people at the center, it unlocks a whole world of possibilities.
Yeah, okay.
We can create solutions that are effective, equitable, sustainable, and truly transformative.
I love that.
So this feels like a good place to pause our deep dive into human-centered innovation.
Yeah.
Join us for part 3,
All right.
where we'll explore the future of HCI.
Okay, that sounds great.
And consider how we can all contribute to building this more human-centered world.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. All right, welcome back to our final deep dive on human-centered innovation.
Glad to be back.
So, we've gone through the principles and all these different elements of HCI. And I'm feeling super energized, like I'm really excited about the potential.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
That excitement that you have, that's what's going to fuel the future of this.
Okay.
We're not talking about just a set of tools or methods. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how we approach problems.
And a shift in our mindsets as well.
Exactly. It's a shift in mindset, a way of seeing the world through this human-centered lens.
Yeah, and that has the potential to change not just the things that we design, but the systems that we live in.
The very systems that we live in, and that's where the real excitement lies.
Okay.
It's in that future of HCI.
Yeah.
We're at the edge of a major shift.
Okay, paint me a picture.
Okay, so imagine moving away from those top-down, solution-driven approaches and embracing things like collaboration, empathy, and community-led innovation.
I'm ready for that world.
Yeah, it's an exciting world.
So what are some of the trends, like the emerging areas that you're seeing in HCI?
So one area that's already making waves is the integration of artificial intelligence into this process.
AI and HCI.
AI and HCI.
Okay. I mean, I'm a little apprehensive about AI, I have to say.
I understand that. There's a lot of concerns around AI.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that, like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. And it's really up to us to make sure that we're using AI in a way that benefits humanity.
So in a human-centered way.
In a human-centered way, exactly. And I actually believe that when used thoughtfully and ethically, AI can actually enhance those human-centered aspects.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued, so give me some examples.
Okay, so imagine using AI-powered tools to analyze massive amounts of data about human behavior, needs, and preferences. We could uncover these patterns and insights that would be really difficult, if not impossible, for humans to detect on their own.
So it's like having this super powerful research assistant that can just like go through and
sift through mountains of data.
Yeah, all that information.
And find those golden nuggets of insight.
Okay.
We could also use AI to personalize solutions. So tailoring them to individual needs and situations.
Okay, like a custom-made solution.
A custom-made solution, exactly. So think about healthcare apps that use AI to recommend personalized treatment plans or educational platforms that adapt to each student's unique learning style.
So everyone's getting what they need.
Everyone's getting what they need. It's about meeting people where they are.
Yeah, like that.
And then AI can also be a really powerful tool for designing solutions that are more inclusive and accessible.
Okay, how so?
Well, for example, we could use AI to translate languages, provide audio descriptions for people who are visually impaired, or even create interfaces that adapt to people with various abilities.
Wow, so it's breaking down barriers.
Yep, breaking down barriers.
Yeah.
It's creating a more equitable playing field.
Yeah, and it's giving people access who might not have had access before.
Exactly. So it's about creating a world where everyone has equal access to opportunities.
Yeah, I love that.
AI could even help to facilitate deeper community engagement.
Okay.
So imagine platforms that use AI to connect people with shared interests.
Okay.
Help them communicate across languages.
Wow.
Or even organize and advocate for change more effectively.
So AI is like a tool to empower the community?
It can be a powerful tool for empowering communities.
Yeah, and giving them a voice.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
But it's really important to remember that we have to keep human needs at the forefront.
Right. It should always serve us, not the other way around.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we need to address things like bias, transparency, and accountability
Yeah.
when we're developing and using these AI systems.
So we don't want AI to be the one making the decisions.
No, it's about using AI to enhance human intelligence and support human-centered outcomes.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, so HCI principles are crucial in making sure that we use this powerful technology for good.
So AI and HCI, powerful combination.
Powerful combination.
What else have you seen?
So another exciting trend is the increasing focus on designing for well-being.
Oh, yeah. I feel like a lot of the technology today is it's like designed to hook you.
It's designed to grab our attention and keep us engaged, even if it's at the expense of our mental and emotional health.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that.
Yeah, and there's a growing awareness that we need to design technology that actually supports our well-being, not detracts from it.
There's technology that makes our lives better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Technology that enhances our lives, that reduces our stress.
That fosters those meaningful connections.
Okay.
And a sense of purpose.
I'm here for that.
Yeah. And this is where HCI comes in.
Okay.
By understanding those human needs and motivations, we can design technology that encourages mindfulness.
Okay.
Promotes healthy habits. Helps us build those strong relationships.
Okay, so give me a real-world example.
Okay, so imagine social media platforms that are designed for genuine connection instead of those superficial interactions.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and think about fitness apps that go beyond just tracking our steps. They offer personalized support and encouragement.
Okay, and like help you achieve your goals.
Exactly, and workplaces that are designed to foster collaboration, creativity, and a sense of belonging.
Wow, okay, so we're
moving away from that hustle culture and embracing a more human-centered approach to work.
Yeah, okay, I love all of this.
Yeah, so it's about prioritizing human well-being.
Yeah, instead of just profits or engagement metrics.
Okay.
And this shift is being driven by a growing understanding of how interconnected our physical, mental, and emotional well-being truly are.
Right, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Okay.
And technology can either bolster or undermine our overall well-being.
Right.
They're starting to demand solutions.
Yeah, I think so too.
That prioritize the positive. And HCI is going to play a key role in making that shift.
I'm really excited about this. It seems like technology can actually be a force for good.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I believe it can be. By understanding human needs and designing with empathy, we can create a world where technology actually empowers us to live healthier, happier, more fulfilling lives.
Okay, I'm here for it.
Okay, so we've got AI, we've got well-being. What else?
What else is there?
Another area that's gaining momentum is the use of HCI to tackle those big global challenges.
Right, like we talked about with...
Yeah, like IDEU.org.
Yeah.
But this is becoming even more of a focus.
Okay, why is that?
Well, as those challenges become more complex, more interconnected, think about climate change, poverty, global health crises.
Yeah.
The need for human-centered solutions just keeps growing.
Yeah, because it's like affecting everyone.
Exactly.
So it's about taking the principles that we've talked about and applying them to the world's biggest problems.
Exactly. We need to understand the experiences, the perspectives of those who are most affected by these challenges, involve them in finding solutions, and create things that are equitable, sustainable, and culturally appropriate.
Okay.
So, for example, there are organizations that are using HCI to design more effective healthcare systems in developing countries to create sustainable agricultural practices that empower farmers to develop educational programs that reach those marginalized communities.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see that it can make a difference on like a global scale.
Yeah, and this is just the beginning, I think, as the world becomes more interconnected. That demand for these human-centered solutions is only going to keep growing.
Okay, so we've got AI, well-being, and tackling these global challenges, and that's all great, but how do we actually make it happen?
That is the question. You know, we've talked about all these possibilities, but how do we actually scale up HCI?
Yeah.
How do we make this the norm, not just a niche approach?
Right.
I think the answer lies in education,
Okay.
advocacy, and collaboration.
Okay, break those down for me.
All right, so first, education.
Yeah.
We need to teach the next generation
Okay.
of designers, innovators, problem solvers about these HCI principles.
Right.
We need to incorporate these concepts into design programs.
Right.
Offer training, inspire students.
So it's like starting at the foundation.
It's about embedding HCI into the foundation of design education.
Okay, I like that.
We also need to advocate for HCI within organizations and institutions.
Okay.
Show them the value. Highlight the success stories.
Okay.
Build a community of practice
that
supports and promotes HCI.
So creating like a movement.
It's about creating a movement, spreading the word, inspiring others to join the cause.
I like that.
And finally, collaboration.
Okay.
We need to encourage collaboration across different fields.
Okay.
So HCI isn't limited to design.
Right.
It's interdisciplinary. It draws insights from psychology, sociology, anthropology, computer science, you name it.
So breaking down those silos.
Breaking down the silos, bringing diverse minds together to tackle these complex problems.
Because the best solutions come from those collaborations.
The most effective solutions often come from those collaborations.
Yeah, okay. I love all of this.
Yeah.
This is giving me so much hope for the future.
I think it should.
Yeah, because it feels like we're like really on the edge of a major change.
Yeah, we're on the brink of a major change.
Right.
And by embracing these principles, we can build a future that is not only innovative, but also equitable, sustainable, and fulfilling.
And human-centered.
And human-centered, most importantly.
Yeah.
So this has been an incredible journey into human-centered innovation.
It has.
I hope you're leaving with that sense of possibility.
I definitely am.
Good, and a call to action.
I feel like I want to go out and do something.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
And remember, you don't have to wait for someone else to create this world.
Okay.
You can start today, right where you are, in your own community.
That's a really powerful reminder.
We all have the power to make a difference.
Yeah. So what are we waiting for? Let's do it.
Exactly. By embracing these principles, we can unlock that power and create a world that is truly designed for humanity.
That's beautiful. I think that's a great place to end our deep dive into human-centered innovation.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it really has. So thank you for joining us. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep designing for a better world.
Couldn't said it better myself.